With a look so lifelike, there's screams in her seams. Here's your look at the NECA toys. This is the retro cloth M3GAN. Own your very own M3GAN doll from the hit film. The Model 3 generative robot M3GAN was designed to be a parent's greatest ally and programmed to be a child's best friend. But a self-aware doll with a life of its own can lead to sinister consequences. This fully articulated 8-inch scale NECA action figure has tailored clothing similar to the retro toy lines and helped define the licensed action figure market in the 1970s. Accessories include interchangeable faceplates and hands, battle-damaged head, robot head, battle-damaged faceplate, paper cutter, and screwdriver. Just before we look at your friend till the end. Wait, what? Oh, that's been used by somebody else? Another killer doll. So it was pretty close. Okay, I was pretty close. Let's first take the tape measure, though, and see how tall the retro cloth M3GAN actually stands. While I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA that were kind enough to provide this sample. M3GAN is going to stand at about 5 inches in height, maybe just a hair taller than that. That translates, though, to a figure that's about 13 centimeters tall. Now, what's interesting, though, about the retro cloth M3GAN is that she's about the same size as the Ultimate release. The thing that's only a little bit different, though, is that the proportions of her head are a little bit more, well, she's got a slightly smaller, squatter body and a much larger head. Between those two things sort of added up, she about works out to be the same size as the Ultimate release of her. Here's also, speaking of evil dolls, here's what she looks like, though, with not only Chucky from Bride of Chucky, but also his bride as well. Now, size-wise, I think you could easily put these things on the shelf together. I mean, I don't think like M3GAN necessarily is at a scale with Bride of Chucky, or Chucky for that matter. And speaking of another Chucky, also here's the screaming version of him. I think this was the Shout Factory exclusive, but we've certainly gotten him since. The retro cloth M3GAN has similar things to the Ultimate version, but then she does also a couple of things that are unique to her. Well, kind of before we talk about the unique things, let's talk about the same things. The figure, first of all, does come included with her screwdriver. Now, the screwdriver is going to be either held in her hand, or you can also lodge it into the front of the face of the robot head. She does also come included with the guillotine arm. It still looks less like a guillotine arm, and it certainly looks more like a katana blade. The Ultimate version of her actually had two variations of this blade, one that was covered in blood and then one was a cleaner. They chose only to give her the clean version for the retro cloth release of her, but it still can be held in her hand the same way. Speaking of hands, though, the figure does also come included with two types of gripping hands. One hand specifically for the screwdriver. So we can go ahead and just take the screwdriver and fit it into her hand. And as you can see, once that gets in there, it's not going anywhere. Whee, whee, whee. And then, of course, she also does come included with the hand for holding the guillotine arm. Just fit that into her hand like that. These hands, by the way, can just be popped off. The thing that's interesting about them, though, is that both of the hands are only going to go on this side of the figure's body. Oh, so she must be a lefty. I guess you could stab also with the right hand. I mean, we didn't even talk about that. Oh, wait, that is her right hand because I'm facing the opposite way. So she's doing all of her damage with the right side of her body, right? Okay, good, right. The Ultimate release did come also included with the nail gun and the hammer. As you're certainly looking at the lay of the land right now, you can see clearly, though, that the retro cloth release of her doesn't come included with the nail gun and it doesn't come included with the hammer. I don't think really she needs to have those either. I mean, for me, displaying her, I'm probably only going to beeline it back anyways to the blade. So that's fine for me, at least for displaying her. I guess really for the size of her, let me just grab the nail gun. I just happen to have it off to the side here. Like, you know, from a size standpoint, I think you could easily still get away with both the hammer and the nail gun to be displayed with her, if that's the route that you want to go with. Of course, the figure does also come included with her robot head. Now, to go back and just grab the screwdriver again, let's just remove it from her hand. That's the wrong side, by the way. The right side is this way here. Now, she has a couple of face plates, though, but before we actually start adding face plates, you'll see that there's a hole right here. Now, if you've already seen my review of the Ultimate, you know it works the exact same way. Just basically take the screwdriver. Don't worry, she's a robot. She won't feel it, or that we are aware of, at least. Just lodge that in there, and yeah, the screwdriver isn't going to be going anywhere. She does also come included with a couple of swappable face plates. Now, the face plates don't vary that much, so you can see they're very similar in design. And again, if you want to just attach these onto her face. So if you look at the back, there's two pegs, and then on the other side where the head is actually, you can see that there's two, can you see there's like little two indentations. Basically, you just take the face plate and you just lodge it in place. So she's got that face, and again, we'll just go ahead and grab the other one here. Careful, careful. You got to handle these things with care. You can also attach that face too. Love the gold. Love the head sculpts. I don't know. I could see myself maybe picking up another one of these M3GANs. I know I said that the other time when we looked at the ultimate release of her. By the way, though, the head sculpts on M3GAN, before we start adding robot heads to her, I will say one thing about the retrocloth release of her. I think she's actually a little bit more closer to the way she looks in the movie than the ultimate release. Now, may have worked better this way that I actually looked at this figure first, because I still think, like, if you're an ultimate collector of NECA figures, I don't think you're wrong to collect this one, because it was a fine-looking M3GAN. But argument maybe could perhaps be made that this is a better-looking likeness to M3GAN. The thing that I said was unique to her, though, is that she comes included with a swappable faceplate. Now, with NECAs, what NECA ended up doing, I would just put the figure down here for a second. With the ultimate release, if you've already seen my review of that, thank you for that, by the way. She did technically come included with 2 head sculpts. I guess it doesn't, I mean, the argument really could be made that they could have gone the same route and given her swappable faceplates, but instead you have to actually commit to the idea of removing the head entirely and replace it with this head sculpt if you want the more ticked off look to M3GAN instead. What they've done differently, though, here, so what we get here for first in M3GAN, I mean, you get like a neutral expression face, but if you want, again, like the more ticked off M3GAN, if you get a face like this by anybody, female, just start walking and leaving the room right away. You know, bad luck's coming your way. Anyways, though, if you did want to change the face, instead of having to remove and commit to taking a head off altogether, the only thing you really need to do is kind of reach under the chin just like this and pop the face off completely. It does look a little strange, doesn't it, just having the eye holes there. But once you remove it, then you'll just take the face that you want to use and then just line up those holes, because there's pegs on the back of the face, and just plug it back, just like that. That's all you need to do. So to show you where we've come from, that's the original face, this is the new face. This is the face you may want to avoid. Anyways, this kind of looks like Sydney Sweeney, doesn't it? The hair stays exactly the same. The only thing that's going to be changing when you start to change the hairs is also the damaged face. As this is also one of the included accessories. I'm going to just reach off to the side here and grab the one that we got from the Ultimate. Yeah, still, I feel like argument, I could say, like, the retro cloth release looks a little better for M3GAN. Now, I'm not going to say, like, if you're an Ultimate collector, start now collecting retro cloth figures. You either like retro cloth or you don't. I like, honestly, just to collect both the lines, because I feel like both lines kind of give you something a little bit, both offering something a little bit different that the other thing doesn't have. This one clearly benefits from having real fabric. The other ones are only just going to be in plastic. This one also scales better with retro cloth figures. You're not likely going to be displaying this figure with like an Ultimate Chucky, because it isn't going to work as well, I feel. But again, like, if you look at the 2 heads, still she has the damaged look on the front of her face. So this has all been like just ripped open on top of her forehead. She's got this big gash wound down the front of her face. Paint, I feel, is a little bit better here for the retro. Maybe a little paler here for the Ultimate. The sculpting of the hair is about the same. And if you did want to change out the face, it's just a case, well, not changing out the face, you're changing out the entire head. Just pop it very easily off the ball joint. This is also something that I noticed with the retro. It seems to have replaced the heads a lot easier. I had a bit of an issue when it came to the Ultimate version of M3GAN, where I felt like it didn't attach properly onto the ball joint. I'm not having that issue at all. I say that now. I'm not having that issue at all if you move, of course, the hair out of the way. Plug the head in place, so there's the battle damage look. And again, we didn't forget about the robot either, so you want to change out the head for that. Pop the head off the ball joint and revisit it with a robot head instead. Robot head instead. That's what it looks like. If I only had really one of these in my collection, which I currently have right now, that's the status of this right now, I'm probably just going to end up displaying her either with the battle damage head, or maybe just might go with this head sculpt instead. So let's just pop that off, and we'll put this one back on the way that we started it with. The only thing that's different, obviously, is changing out the face. Now, so we're going to do a couple of comparisons here. I'm going to bring back in the Ultimate M3GAN. The coloring for her dress is a little lighter here, clearly, for the fabric version of her. A little darker here for the Ultimate. There's certainly some could be said as well, like for her sleeves. The sleeves are a little bit more fitted to her arm because it's obviously clearly in plastic. With this now being fabric, the sleeves look a little baggier. Also, you can see, like, with the leggings, the tights that she wears, both are actually in plastic, so nothing really does change there. The feet, though, funny enough, though, if you look at them, they're not that much different in size. I could maybe even say that maybe they're using the exact same feet. No, they're not, obviously, because the Ultimate release has some additional lines there, panel lined in it, and I guess really the retro has it just slightly bigger, but not by much. Again, she's got the real fabric dress, so that might be one point towards maybe this being the better looking Megan in your collection. She's still got the fabric now. Now this one actually is a fabric bow tie, whereas again, like the Ultimate release had it all in plastic. This was also sculpted to her dress. So you can do, well, you wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now with the retro release. The only thing I would say is like her head seems a little bit closer to her body, which isn't a bad thing at all. And that because they're also using fabric sleeves, the sleeves are a little bit more baggier. But I guess you could probably just pull them back a bit if you want them a little bit tighter to a body. But the articulation, though, for the figure, if you're familiar pretty much with the retro M3GAN, well, if you're familiar, first of all, with the other retro cloth figures, the articulation on this one isn't that much different. Plus, also, if you already had picked up this version of M3GAN, the articulation isn't that much different at all. So, like, running through it, first of all, with her head sculpt, it's going to be in a ball joint, so it moves back and forth. I mean, stating already the obvious, because she has the long locks of blonde in the front, it's going to limit some of the posability with what you can actually do to her head. So it doesn't move back and forth all that much, but it does rotate up and down. Sometimes, though, when you are trying to hinge the head up, in the process, as it did just now, it ends up popping the head off the ball joint. The arms do hinge out. You bring those out at, I would say, probably almost 90 degrees, maybe a little less than that. The arms move forward, move back. I did notice, though, with the copy provided to me, that the arms were a little on the tighter side. She has a swivel there at the bicep. She has what seems only to be a single hinge in the elbow, and hands rotate back and forth as well. Upper torso is going to be on a ball joint, so that's nice to see. Legs split out. And because, again, like you don't have the restrictions at all, now that she's got a fabric dress, she can split her legs a lot further. I think even when we looked at this figure, yeah, splitting her legs, that's about as far as you could really go, just because, again, like she's got the plastic dress instead of the fabric. But again, like for the legs, you can move them certainly forward. You can move them back. They're a little on the squeakier side. Just kind of bring the dress up here for a second so you can see kind of what works underneath. So again, you got your ball joints, right? They're attaching the legs to the lower half of her body. You also got a swivel there at the top of the thigh. I know it's not the most decent thing to be looking at. Single hinge, though, for the knee. The lower leg doesn't really rotate all that much. And she's got the ankle pivot, an ankle rocker. I know we probably already established this. The figure does also have peg holes in the bottoms of her feet. It's really just, again, a case of picking your poison. Some prefer, though, retro cloth figures. And for that, I think there's definitely arguments to be made why the retro is doing things a little bit better. Some, though, still prefer the Ultimates, where the Ultimates are getting a lot more accessories. And I think, like likenesses, you're not wrong in either part. If you only really are dedicated to collecting the retro figures, the retro cloth releases, I think personally, like the retro cloth M3GAN looks better than the Ultimate release. Though again, like you could just choose, like if you're not even interested at all in getting the cloth figures, whatever I say anyways really isn't going to make much matter. But I still feel like if you are collecting like the retro cloth figures, M3GAN here is doing things quite interesting though. Also again, bringing back in Chucky and bringing, of course, Tiffany as well. She scales really well with also the other retro cloth dolls we've gotten before. Things I also really like about the retro cloth M3GAN is that she also comes not only with the battle damage head that we've already gotten borrowed over before, but that she also comes with a swappable faceplate, which first of all does away with the idea that she even needed to have a secondary head like the Ultimate release had before. Instead of having to worry and contend with dealing with a ball joint every single time of popping off that head and trying to replace it with a head, a standalone on its own, it's so much easier, I find, just to go in there and do the faceplate option. I don't know why they couldn't have maybe used that same idea to incorporate over to that, but maybe again, NECA just wanted to have unique features to the retro cloth release of M3GAN that wasn't already present on the Ultimate before. In the end, I don't think it's fair to really recommend one M3GAN over the other, because you as the viewer, you're either collecting NECA toys from the standpoint of collecting both the retro and the Ultimates, or you might be somebody that only has decided for their collection and for their budget, you're going to collect only one line over the other. So if you're already well invested in getting the Ultimate figures, whatever I may say praise-wise for the retro cloth release may not have any weight on you at all because you're only really going to collect the Ultimate. If you're only really just to stick with the Ultimate M3GAN, I don't think you're wrong at all for doing that. She's a great looking figure, she had a decent looking head sculpt, all three of them at least, and she does have technically some accessories that don't get gifted over to this release. If I was, though, to be fair and look at, though, both figures, I think, though, the retro has a better likeness to M3GAN, a little softer on her complexion when it came to the paint, and I do really like the idea that you could have swappable faceplates. Does that, again, have any weight on a collector that's only collecting Ultimate figures? Probably not. But if you are one that maybe doesn't want to have fully invested into getting the entire line of retro cloth figures, I don't think, again, there's anything wrong just to collect the M3GAN on her own, especially if you're a fan of the M3GAN movie. This one, again, I do like that this has a fabric outfit. Works really well with the character. The colors on the dress are a little lighter as well, and I think they're a little bit closer to the movie. If, though, I had to be torn and somebody was twisting my rubber arm to choose only one over the other, maybe I would say that the retro is a better looking M3GAN, but again, I don't think there's anything wrong with collecting one over the other. What do you guys, though, think of M3GAN? Let me know down below in the comment section. And really, of the Ultimates release and the Retro Cloths release, which do you think is the better looking figure? A big thank you again to the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new Retro Cloth M3GAN that we had the chance to have a look at in this review. Hey now, if you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid, of course, and hit it with a like. And if you guys want to stick around for more, I hope so, you can hit that subscribe, you can turn on that bell, and the most important thing is that you can come back. We may be wrapping up things right now for a killer Android doll, but there will be more NECA reviews actually coming your way for the rest of this week. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.